Okay, this is going to be a video for people who dislike that vocal tone, and I'm thinking just as much of their speaking voice here as their singing voice. The two do proceed from the same physical mechanism after all, right? And the way that you use one will affect the other. But yeah, let's talk about that. So, a lot of people, their voices are either kind of stuck like this, they're kind of gravelly, or they might be kind of overly soft like this, or they might be a bit high and squeaky like this. Okay, so let's talk about that. A healthy voice is deep not because you're forcing your vocal pitch low, but because the throat, the mechanism is strong and the throat is in an open position. The laryngeal muscles that help the larynx to stay low are nice and strong, and they're not being overly pulled up by the constrictor muscles that raise it into more of a swallowing position. Okay, so how do you train that state? Well, you go for a deep and clear sound. Now, there's a bit of a fashionable meme in vocal pedagogy to go chasing brightness. Ah, like this. Or ah, and it's true that latter sound, at least, does train the larynx. It does train the vocal folds to close. But the problem is, of course, it puts your larynx in a very high position and your throat is in a closed position. So there's a conflict. So you have to try and get both. You have to try and get a clear tone, and I'm emphasizing that, a clear tone rather than a bright tone, because thinking of going for a bright tone, I think prejudices the result, and prejudices the process too much. But if you think about clear, as in no airiness in the sound, no vagueness, that laser-like cutting metallic quality, fine. But you've got to pair that with depth. So if I go ah, 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 okay, that's fine. It's not airy, I suppose. It's okay. If I go ah, ah, there is more cut, there is more buzz, but ah, ah, you can see my larynx moving up. So what if I take that pure tone and I just kind of walk it into a deeper position? Ah, 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 ah. It actually projects better. Ah, ah. It makes a hell of a din. Now, I know that a lot of people watching this, they're not going to want... I know it's an operatic sound, right? Obviously, it's a very operatic or quasi-operatic sound. And I know that having that kind of sound isn't going to be on the agenda for a lot of singers, a lot of people watching this. But essentially, we're using this kind of coordination as an exaggeration, right? Because it encourages the throat to open up more, encourages the larynx to move into a lower position, it encourages the voice to produce more resonance, it encourages the breath to stand still, to suspend, which I'm not going to get into right now, but that's another important part of this. It encourages all of these things. And when you go back to more of a neutral position, it just remembers a percentage or a shade of that coordination, and it comes out freer, it comes out deeper, it comes out louder, it comes out less effortful, right? So a lot of those issues that I mentioned earlier are cleared up by training in this position. Now, that said, it's heavy. Your muscles are not used to doing this. It involves muscles muscles that suspend the larynx and help it to suspend it or draw it down into a lower position, the anti-constrictor muscles. It involves the lips a little bit. It involves the tongue, which actually wants to move up and back, which actually kind of, you can't see it, but it moves up out of the throat at the back, and it kind of retracts a bit at the front, almost like a snail going into its shell, and that creates a very, very big open pharyngeal space. So for me personally, I just like to think deeper while staying clear, but those are some of the kind of components of this coordination, right? Some of the physical positions that are involved in this coordination. So just make a deep ah, as opposed to ah, this kind of baby noise. And this is taught a lot, but I prefer ah. And you don't need to aim for a beautiful sound necessarily. Just go for a deep and strong sound. You'll be amazed at the racket this produces. Now, if I then take this, now I can hear it, it's actually already affected my speaking voice a little bit. It's probably not necessarily that perceptible to people listening in, but I can feel the difference. It's just a little bit, you know, a little bit floatier, I guess. So if you take this, you do this for a while, do it a few times. Ah, don't take it too high. Don't do it for too long. You have to strike that balance. Ah, ah, and rest for a moment. Swallow. Let everything just sort of settle down. And then go back. Let's say you're a rock pop kind of singer, and or musical theatre. And you're interested in, for example, belting better, or you're just someone who finds that when they, their voice fatigues quickly, they, excuse me for one moment, being distracted. Their voice fatigues quickly, or you run your voice down when you're in a loud ambient environment. For example, if you go out with friends and you come back the next day and you're hoarse, this is going to be useful for you too. Or if you're a teacher, for example, who uses your voice all day. Anyway, I digress. If you use these kinds of sounds, train with them a little bit, go back to your more neutral kind of, your speaking voice or your belting voice. Oh, yay! And it just feels so much easier. And it sounds bigger and fatter and darker as well. Alright. That's all I got to say right now. Over and out.